So we have a new episode of Legends and Leaders, and it's amazing to have Jim Cummings here, the voice of Winnie the Pooh, voice of Tigger, and so many of these amazing childhood TV shows and movies that we all know and love. And it's great to have you here, Jim. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to you too. And it's a beautiful thing. Let's do it.
hmm Agreed. Let's do it. So I love to just start with just when you were a kid, right? Did your family and friends recognize that you had talent in voice acting? Was this something that people kind of knew about you? How did this start?
Well, I was a very annoying child. Actually, is the fact of the matter. I'm sitting in the back of the room doing dolphin noises, and you know, they weren't that crazy about it at first. Well, what are you going to do? I've told this before. I hate to feel like I'm repeating myself, but it's still the truth. I just saw Mel Blanc on the Jack Benny program, and I was like 5 years old. And I remember thinking I would like to do that when I got older. So I did, and it's that simple and that hard. It's crazy.
Right. Yeah. And so you had this like vision, you saw where you wanted to be. What were the first steps of making it a reality? Like how did you quote unquote get discovered in a sense?
Well, as a kid, I was always in a lot of plays, and I'd always want to be, uh, the weirdo or the guy who lived in a cave or whatever. If I was going to be in a play. Well, I made my first demo tape in '84, late 1984, and I did. It was basically a guy from Ireland and a guy from India sitting around watching television shows and flipping through the channels. And I was every commercial they heard, I was every cartoon they heard, I was them, the two guys. And there was, I don't know, maybe 12 or 13, 14 different characters on there, character voices. And that was that was how you did it. That was how I understood that you did it. And I sort of shopped it around, and I gave it away to a fellow named Sal Romeo, who had just made a really terrible, corny B movie, horror movie. And he was my big showbiz connection. And that and Bob Starr, who was the voice of the California Angels baseball team. And he said, well, Sal said, well, this is good, but I'm not doing anything right now. I'll pass it along. And he did. And he gave it to Frank Brandt and Caroline Hay, and they had just made Dumbo Circus, or they had made, Return to Pooh Corner, which was people in costumes for Disney Channel, and it was brand new, brand new. And I mean, I think it was on literally for less than a year at that point. The Disney Channel itself, and they were getting ready to do Dumbo Circus, and it was going to be people in costume again, no animation. So I auditioned for the role of Lionel, who was Timothy Mouse, he was the mouse in the movie Dumbo. But since it was people in costumes, they couldn't have like if it was a little person, they couldn't have like a 4 foot mouse. So they made him a lion, and I auditioned for that role, and I was Dumbo's pal, Lionel the lion, and that was him, and that was my first job, and that lasted over a year, and right away I was able to quit my job at the Video Depot, which was astonishing to me at the time. And by the time that show wound down, I was doing radio commercials, TV commercials, a lot of local stuff, and then I was kind of off and running, and I've been very fortunate. I've worked ever since.
Yeah, that's
Now here
great.
I am.
It was one
Yeah,
connection in and the right audition and then it just happened to work out from
yeah,
there.
yeah. It was nice to get that
That's
first
amazing.
audition because it lasted. That job lasted, like I say, a year and a half, and that gave me a chance to, get more established. I didn't even have an agent, so I finally got an agent. Always good.
Huh.
Always a plus, right?
Of course. So you have this role in Dumbo Circus. Then how do you get the role of Winnie the Pooh? Like, how does that happen?
Well, it wasn't long after that at all. It was maybe within a year or maybe a year and a half. Uh, that Disney, it used to be that Disney and what HBO and Marvel, they were all separate entities. Well, now they're all one big one. But back
Mm.
then it was a separate thing, and they Winnie the Pooh had been gone for maybe 20 years, 22 years, something like that, because
Really?
the original shorts were in the early 60s. And so now here we are in the mid 80s, and they decide to bring back the bear. And I auditioned for, let's see, I think Gopher, Pooh, and Tigger, and Eeyore. And, I thought I really did a good Eeyore. And I thought had a really good shot at Eeyore. I wasn't sure about Pooh and Tigger. And Gopher, I wasn't real confident about. But anyway, so I auditioned, and my agent called about a week and a half later. She goes, "Well, I have bad news and I have good news." And I said, "Oh, okay. Well, give me the bad news." She goes, "Well, you're not going to be Eeyore." And I said, "Oh man, you're kidding." And she said, "No, no." And I said, "Well, who got it?" And she said, "Peter Cullen." And Peter Cullen was Eeyore, but he also ended up being Optimus Prime. And he's a good buddy of mine. He was Monterey Jack and Chippendale's Rescue Rangers. Worked with him a million times. And so I said, well, gosh, you lose to Peter Cullen. You can't complain too much. He's pretty awesome. She said, but you did get Winnie the Pooh and Tigger. And I went, oh, hell with Eeyore. Eeyore Schmeeyor. So that was kind of nice. That was very nice.
Yeah.
And
How
then
did
I
you
just
manage being two characters in the same universe? Like you have to put your mind into two different roles. How is that?
yeah, I've been asked that 100 times. I don't even think about it. That's probably not the answer you were looking for, but it's the truth. I literally don't think about it. I mean, just depends on who. If it says Pooh above the line, I figure that's Pooh. See how I worked that out?
Yeah.
Tiggti double go Well, that spells Tigger. So that would be Tigger. And so you just do the Tigger line. And I don't know how, but it helps to be schizophrenic,
Huh.
and we are.
Yeah. Right. So
Never get that show. Oh boy.
so you're basically you kind of created the modern day version of these two characters. I mean, how did you research a lot on, based on how they were previously played, like, or did you just kind of like come into your it just kind of came out naturally, essentially?
No, I don't know if research would be right, but yeah, I've always just fallen into a voice here and there, just being myself. I'd
Mhm.
be playing Monopoly or whatever, and I believe I will buy Park Place. So Pooh bought Park Place. Got a little sore throat. But I just did it all the time. I didn't even think about it. I mean, this is like when I'm 6 and 9 and 10, 12 years old, way before, uh, I was in the business, obviously. But I just kind of always did it, and it's like I said before, I really enjoyed being in plays. Um, and I didn't want to be like the cute little prince. I wanted to be the weasel under the bridge, and those are all character roles, and that's basically, voice actors are just character actors. That's literally character actors, and so that's where I landed from my misspent youth.
Huh. So how did the role of Smokey the Bear come about? Like, how did you get that role? Was it something that you wanted to have? Like,
Well, I wanted to nail down the bear market out there in Hollywood. I want to do all the A-list bears. No, I have no idea. That was another one that, you just remember it as you remember, only you can prevent Forrest Whitaker. No, that's not. That's Alzheimer's, Smokey. Anyway, I just it's one of those things you always heard, and I always would cut. Excuse me, I would always kind of just do it, like I say, playing around, not being very serious about it. But it came along and it was up for audition, and I think and they replaced me in recent years because Smokey doesn't talk anymore. They don't even
Hmm.
call him they call him Smokey Bear, and I don't know. I think it's some weird little politically correct thing. But I do know that Sam Elliott was doing the commercials. So maybe he's smoking now. I just don't know. That's a weird thing because it was a gig. It wasn't like a regular animation job. It was for the U.S. Forestry Service, and they don't have any money.
Hmm.
So uh, there's no such. I don't even think I got residuals on it. I think it was a buyout every time. And but it was fun it was kind of nice to say that. Remember, only you can prevent forest fires. So that was kind of fun. But something everybody knows, that's for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
So, did you think that Winnie the Pooh and Tigger would have like? Do you think Winnie the Pooh would have a like a mainstream in theaters movie? Was that something you thought like earlier on would happen? It did. It happened recently more with like the Christopher Robin movie. Was that something that you thought would occur that you'd be part of?
No, no, I had no way of knowing of even, I could hope, I suppose. But no, I was, it started off, with the new adventure, new adventures of Winnie the Pooh. And that show was very, very popular. Excuse me. And I, like a year and a half after that folded, somebody brought up a new idea. Oh, let's do the Book of Pooh. And then we did the characters that they were incredible, but they were puppets. And and Tigger had, I think, like four people manipulating him. And then it was all against the green screen. And then, yeah, and then they just put them into and it looked beautiful. It was really, really well done. And then, that led to my friends Tigger and Pooh with Darby. His no more Christopher Robin. Now it was a little girl. And, one thing led to another. And then there was a Halloween special, then another Halloween, then an Easter special, plenty of Christmas specials. I'm waiting on the Shrove Tuesday special, Arbor Day special. But it just, I think, Pooh just ended up, uh, at one point, I know that he was outshining Mickey as the flagship for Disney. So that was fun. And we're still going. I'm waiting for the next. Christopher. I have to say though, you brought up Christopher Robin, and I was really proud of that. I thought that came out so beautifully. I was
Yeah.
really, really happy about that. And
Yeah, I think it
people
was
really.
exceptional.
What's that?
I think it was exceptional. Just an
Oh,
incredible performance. Yeah.
yeah, it was great. Yeah, nothing to do with me. I just mean the movie. I thought it was really well done. And in my brain, I'm sending out to the universe that I think Christopher's daughter should grow up and have an interlude as an adult with Pooh and the gang. I think that's natural, don't you? A sequel? It'd be in the
Yeah.
sort of in the 50s or 60s. Who knows? I don't know because that one
To
was
make
set around World War II era or between World War II and one, and
to make a lot
it
of
was
sense.
yeah.
So when Jim, when you were involved with the Princess and the Frog movie, did you initially audition for the Raymond the Firefly role, and like how did you get cast into that? Because it's one of the most like interesting roles of a character. It's like a really unique character.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I think so too. I uh, I auditioned for Lewis the alligator and
Okay.
Raymond, and those were the two that was kind of shooting for, and I fortunately I got the one I really wanted. Um, and people ask me a lot about the voice. Well, when I was a kid, I lived in New Orleans, and a kid, I say like 18, 19, and I was a deckhand on a riverboat, on the river that we it took place on. And a lot of times I would be the only person on the boat uh, for whom English was his first language, because a lot of Cajuns, a lot of people out there in the swamp, they literally grew up speaking Cajun French. That was their first language, and then they learned English when they got into first grade or whenever. And so I was surrounded by folks that were in that category. So I pick up on that accent like that, yeah. And you see me, I'd pass a good time out there with them like that. And that would also help me with a character for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles way back when. His name was Leatherhead, and he was a Cajun alligator. So I've told this story before too, but it's his voice, when he talked like that. That was a dead-on impression of a guy named Léonce Leblanc, and he was from Napoleonville down there in Louisiana, and that was just him talking. And I thought that's a really strong character. So he became Leatherhead. I've often wondered if his kids, his grandkids were sitting there watching Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles a couple years later, going, "Hey, Grandpa, come on in here, you. Who this is on the TV? And how'd you get on this turtle?" So I stole the Cajun accent for that one, and Ray was I don't he was really nobody. He was just me making something up, but but I just threw that accent in there, and I tried to lighten him up because it was a little
Jim,
guy.
can
He
you hear
couldn't
me?
have that deep voice. Uh-oh, I lost. You're frozen there, Ben, and we have a winner. I heard a nice bell ring. Looks like.
Okay, I think we're back.
Oh, here we go. We're back. Thank you.
Yeah. So when the
Doing the
Teenage
job.
Mutant Ninja Turtles series was being created, this first one, did you think it was going to take off and be a hit in the way that it became this huge franchise? Because do you think it was like original enough and unique? Because you were really at the ground floor.
Yeah, you never know about stuff like that it's going to hit or not. It's I was familiar with it from the comic books, from that's where they came from, and was it Bob Eastman? I think was the
Hmm.
creator. Anyway, I recently just met him, so that was kind of fun, and
Cool.
great guy, incredibly talented guy, and it was a very original idea.
Hmm.
Very original idea. I mean, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Wow. Okay. Sure. Why not? Uh, and yeah, I was just very happy to be involved. And I was a couple other characters, but they didn't really make a big splash. But Leatherhead was pretty cool, and obviously that worked out. And I was Shredder for a year and a half, and it was Shredder was interesting because it was a Japanese ninja, right? The in the show, and it was played by James Avery, Dorian Harewood, and me. So two black guys and a white guy played this Japanese guy.
So you were part of you've really kind of filled in, Jim, with different roles for different people. Like I think there was a song in The Lion King that you filled in for. I think there were
Yeah.
some other roles as well. Why do you think you're chosen to do that? Is just because you're able to master different voices quickly?
Well, I don't know. I guess I've always been a singer, so that's not a stretch there. I've always been in a million bands and sung a million songs. And I think the trick is to do it in character. Because a lot of times when somebody starts singing, they don't even sound like themselves. Well, I ended up doing it for Jeremy Irons, um, and I was able to kind of mimic his voice, and that's really it's just that simple. If you can sing and then do it in character voice, you're done. You stick it with a fork, it's done. And I was very proud to do that, very happy to do that. Got a lot of platinum out of it, that's for sure, and kind of some nice wall decoration there. Yeah, beats heavy lifting,
Yeah.
right?
Hmm. The hyenas in The Lion King were so iconic, and that laugh, Like everyone remembers that laugh. How did that laugh come about? It was just
Oh,
natural.
well, it was a weird job. In fact, Frank Welker, who everybody knows. I mean, he's been a million things. From Scooby Doo. Oh my gosh, he was Cujo. And he's Megatron, or who's the bad guy? I think it was Megatron, and the bad guy Transformer. And
Yeah.
he was the original Ed, and I guess for some reason or another, he just wasn't feeling it. He goes, you know what? I don't know. Why don't you call Jimmy Cummings? Just call him up. Call him. So they did, and I went in, and we. I remember, gosh, who was all there? Don Hahn, Rob was there. Anyway, the approach was, see, the idea, he couldn't talk, but they wanted him to get all the emotions across that he had to portray, but it had to be a laugh. So he had to laugh like he was scared out of his wits. He had to laugh like he was laughing. He had to laugh when he was crying. He had to laugh. And we just sat down there and wrote down all these emotions, insouciance, reticence, hesitance, and actual laughter, and, and he was just like a sight gag, an audio video sight gag, I guess, in the movie. And Chicha had a lot of fun with it. Oh man, it's not that funny, okay? God damn, man, what? And we just, and when you needed a break, just insert Ed, and it was a lot of fun. I'm really happy about that. That was great.
Yeah.
Being involved in something that big. It's kind of cool. Didn't know it at the time.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
an incredible role. And you
yeah.
also went into Aladdin, and you had a couple different interesting roles in Aladdin that were kind of like, guided the story in unique directions. Were those like were those like those were very different characters too. Like you kind of came into these more like Middle Eastern characters, and you seemed to adapt into that really well. Was there like a specific way you got into character for those?
Uh, well, back in Youngstown, Ohio, there were a couple of cigar store owners and liquor owners who were from that area, and I was
Hmm.
just kind of doing a knockoff of them. Well, I don't think that you should be doing this, and and then of course Razul was the guy that I was playing, and he was a big tough guy, and he always called him Street Rat, and I just kind of channeled the guys who owned the corner market, and because you pick things up like that, and the
Mhm.
more on it, the more genuine it sounds, the true to form, I think the better. And he was I was very fortunate. He made it into the two sequels, so that was good.
Yeah.
Didn't make it into Will Smith's though. Will Smith's movie was it was interesting, but it was different. And I
Mhm.
I have to actually applaud him for stepping in, because it's tough to follow Robin Williams. I can't imagine doing it, but he did a great job.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Was your favorite role ever, Jim? Was Pooh your favorite role or Tigger your favorite role? Like, what was your most enjoyable experience?
Boy, well, the Pooh and Tigger are both extremely enjoyable because they're iconic. They're
Mm.
they're in the fabric of animation itself, I think. But I sure did get a kick out of Darkwing Duck. I really,
Mm.
really enjoyed doing Darkwing, and he's still very popular to this day. Like, I'll be at this convention, and I guarantee you there will be a 7-year-old, a 10-year-old cosplaying as Darkwing Duck, and it's because it's of Disney Plus is out there now. I was thinking, well, when you were born, the show was off the air for 20 years. So how are you Darkwing Duck? And, you know, uh, I can remember people even putting down DVDs going, wow, we're raising them right. The dad, because the dad's 40 years old now, and he was a big fan of Darkwing Duck. And it's just pretty cool. And like I say, Disney Plus has really revived the old Disney afternoon shows. Bonkers is also very popular now, and Lucky Pickell and from the Bonkers show, and Chippendale Rescue Rangers, Monterey Jack's out there. So all those characters are getting a resurgence. It's kind of fun. I love it.
Yeah, it definitely has
Yeah.
brought out a lot of really interesting stories that may have not got out there because of Disney Plus, for
Yeah.
sure. Mm.
Very true.
So I'd say like the last question, Jim, is where do you see some upcoming roles? Like where do you want to see yourself next? Like you've done a lot of really interesting things throughout the past. Is there something you haven't done yet that you want to do?
Well, yeah, you can have everybody tune into my podcast. It's called Tuned In with Jim Cummings, Toon, that kind of tune. Tuned In with Jim Cummings. And come on down, subscribe, uh, spend money. Uh, and oh, absolutely. And, it's a lot of fun. It's being well received. We were just, Chris and I were just looking at some footage that we did at a podcast a couple of weeks ago with Billy West. And
Hmm.
it's well timed because I think they're coming out with the new, what's the name of that show? Futurama. Yeah. I was thinking Ren and Stimpy. That can't be right. But yeah, Futurama is coming out. And so that'll be kind of nice. See what happens there. Oh, yeah. Yes. And please watch it. He's going to be on my podcast, Tuned In with Jim Cummings, Toon again. So be there or be square.
Sounds good. Well, Jim, look, I appreciate you coming on. You've really shaped a lot of people's childhoods and even today. I mean, there's so many people watching the stuff that you've created and the characters you've developed have been definitely, I think they've definitely provided a great influence on people. So, keep it up and definitely excited for your podcast to keep coming out and yeah, appreciate the time.
Pleasure. Well, thanks, man. Stay tuned out there.